differentiating from young white Alex.
But they were sitting at the soda fountain having chocolate ice cream, and she looked up at him and told him she knew why he was chocolate. And he laughed and he said, why, I guess. And he was, it's because you eat so much chocolate ice cream. Well, I was just mortified for fear that she had offended him, and I talked to him like, oh no, miss. She didn't offend me. His eyes were just dancing. He just was flattered that she cared enough about him to sit up there with him, I guess. But she was 4, so she's 40, almost 44 now, so that's been 40 years ago.
What y'all tell us about these pictures you have here?
Well, the oldest one is probably this one at this end, which is grandmother and grandfather Noble.
Is that too small?
Our grandmother and grandfather, when they lived up at the house in the southwest corner of the property and had a swing out under the trees. At this time, it was still pretty country, even there and at the drugstore and so forth here. The child in arms is my son Horton, whose daughter, incidentally, is named Sarah Noble, doing, again, the complete circle.
And he's holding Pup, his little dog.
This next picture is, you might...
Her mother, Jean Noble Frank.
Who was the old...
Who was a real historian.
Yes, she's a real historian.
Your mother was state genealogist for the DAR for years, and a fanatic about early American architecture. I mean,
she and my dad shared that.
yes, I think they infected each other.
Fed each other.
Where? In the gene somewhere.
I think so.
I don't know where it would have been.
What was it? I didn't hear.
No, I was saying that where
architectural
Alex, I think this next...
Mother and Daddy both.
Yeah.
I love the old architecture, and we don't know, because I mean, Grandpa Noble, really, I don't remember him
There
caring.
was a distant cousin that lived to be 136 that I saw things that he's written.
Andre
And then there were
Francisco.
paintings too, so maybe that's where they got the art,
Yeah.
creative part around that.
I think, Alex, the next one, this is your parents.
Yeah, this is our mother and father, Ivor Lee Noble and Glenn Noble, and this is just another picture of Daddy. Our mother came up from South Georgia when she was ready to start high school, and was taken in by, again, parts of the Oden family. We're no blood kin to the Odens, but boy, we sure are interlaced with them. Anyhow, they sort of adopted her. She was their foster child, and she went to Franklin High School, the same high school and same principal that Gina and I went to.
She graduated in 1934.
34. Anyhow, she came. You can probably tell the story about them meeting better than I can.
I never have been real, and I'm sorry that I don't know.
Maybe Dick knows. They met here at the drugstore.
Oh, Mother and Daddy, yeah. Mother
Daddy
came in, and do you remember that, Dick?
No, the first I knew of your mother, we were living in West Tennessee.
Oh, it came to...
And I remember she came over for a sort of announcement dinner at Kelly Road, where grandmother and grandfather Noble were living there.
Yeah, they still lived on Kelly Road.
And I know they took the elderly lady who worked for them to get me out of the house and walk me around because I was so badly behaved. They did not want to make a bad impression on Ivor Lee.
Oh dear, you're going to tell that story? Oh, tell the whole story. No, I think you should tell it. If you don't, I will.
Well, I'll let you tell it.
So why didn't you?
Well, Dick, I'm not sure I know it exactly right, but I know the gist of it. And the gist of it was, at some point, he got in close to my mother after all, and was going to tell her a joke. And I guess they were trying to keep him from doing that, but he asked, do you like jelly? And I don't remember what Mother's comment was, or if I was ever told, but or maybe she said no. She must have said no, because he says, punch him in the belly anyway. So that was Mother's introduction to Dick.
Initiation in the family.
At least.
Dick, you gonna tell us about the beer garden?
Not a great deal about it. Let the old gentleman, who was not related to us, rest in peace. But one thing that is interesting, I think, when my grandfather and great-grandfather Noble moved out here from downtown, they had a drugstore that they operated at the corner of University and Carroll Street. University being named after the University of Nashville, which subsequently became Vanderbilt University and then moved at one point, moved finally over to West Nashville. But one of them would drive the horse and buggy from the house on Kelly Road all the way into South Nashville, the University in Carroll, and relieve the other one, who would take the buggy and go home and spend the rest of the day and sleep that night. Then the next day they would reverse the process again. And this went on until they ultimately moved, my grandfather moved the operation out here to Brentwood. I have a particular fondness for the drugstore at University in Carroll, which I don't remember at all. But it was condemned for a public housing project when I was in law school, at which time I was working as deputy sheriff and serving civil process. Well, they called it fee grabber in those days. I got paid $3 for each defendant I served. And I was able, through a certain amount of chicanery, to get all the papers for the South Nashville project, including one in which my grandfather was defending the condemnation case. Since he lived in Williamson County and I didn't want to share my fee with the Williamson County deputy, I got him to walk down here to the drugstore in Davidson County and serve the process on him, and got $3 for it, which I think he always resented a little bit. But subsequently they lived continued to live on Kelly for many years and to operate the drugstore up here until eventually they left Kelly and moved up, built a house.
Papa built
As a
something.
matter of fact, they didn't build that house.
No, it was a
That
grocery
was
store.
the original grocery store where the hardware store is now, which they moved up there and added on to it.
It was the post office, because it didn't have the
That
slot
little
and that
slot.
tin
Yeah.
door.
And they lived in that until they were both gone. My grandfather died, I think he was 93, must have weighed 100 pounds,
Soaking wet.
and was energetic just right up to the end. In fact, had considerable trouble with him because one day, when he was over 90, they caught him climbing a ladder up to clean the leaves out of the gutter.
He was in the tree one day when we was there.
Well, I wouldn't have mentioned that about the tree because several conclusions could be drawn from that. But if he'd fallen off that ladder, he would just shattered. But he didn't. He stayed in very good order until his final illness, and stayed sharp and alert until then.
Well, when he was 92, didn't they take him into the hospital for a double hernia operation?
No, you just have
it
the
was a
one.
second hernia operation.
He was in his 80s, I think.
Yeah, I was in Washington. I'd gone up, I'd been invited up by my old navigator, and Kitty and I went up to see the Army-Navy game. And we were out having dinner in Washington at a very nice restaurant. And they called in, the family knew where I was, where we were, people we were staying with, and they knew what restaurant we were going to. Got a call that my grandfather was rushed to the hospital in the ambulance with a strangulated hernia. And at this point, he was not in, never was in good health. Never would die, but never was in good health. But we cut short our trip and came home and didn't see the Army-Navy game. And I came home to be of support to my mother primarily because I figured he wasn't going to live through it. Nobody else thought he was going to live through it. So we were sitting in the waiting room when they wheeled him by on his gurney, going back to his room after the operation. And he raises his head up and just waves and grins. I could kill him.
Well, he had the one hernia operation, and what, a month or so after that.
That's
the second one.
And he operated on the other side. They had left it for years because they figured he was too old to operate on it. But I remember going to see him, my dad and I went to see him a day or two after the operation, and he hopped out of the bed and got Daddy a chair.
Well, he did that with Jan and I went to see him, and he did the same thing when I came.
Well, you know, he had the hospital things on. And they couldn't keep him in bed. He kept getting up running around on the floor with his little bony backside showing. I realize that, but that's all
Okay,
part of
that's just
the
part of history. That's the fun part.
saga of Brentwood.
What are y'all gonna miss the most about it?
Just having this location, this was always a centroid. I mean, wherever we were, this place was always here. I was in California for years, and Gene was in Michigan for years, and I was in Knoxville, and, you know, we lived down on Liberty Pike, we lived up on Battle Avenue, we lived over on Valley View, but this place was always here. And, actually it was here when I was -10, so all through my life it's been here. It's gonna cease to be a centroid with the family again.
Well, I've been asked, you know, are you gonna be here when they tear it down? And I have such mixed feelings about it because I can't imagine not being here, but I'm not sure I want to be here. How do you feel about that?
Well, I used to say that I was gonna be in the next county when the bulldozers ran, but I've decided I'm gonna be here. And actually, this building's gonna be burned down.
Is it for sure?
Well, you know, Alec, you could be in the next county, and Brentwood and still watching.
Depending on which county's the next county.
That is true.
I meant that by being a county farm. You're right, you're absolutely
Well,
right.
this also for many years was the scene of the family. You would have a family Thanksgiving dinner up there, down in the big party room.
Oh, it's just a special place. And I'm so glad that we're doing this because I feel like that we'll be able to hold on to a lot of the memories and the fun and camaraderie that we've had here today.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I'm getting older and you don't look so good yourself.
Thank you, Richard.
Getting older is better than the alternative.
It's
Yeah.
right, that is
Every
right.
day.
Mhm.
I think they're gonna try to save 2 of the big trees out here so at least part of it will still be here.
I don't know how that's gonna go since they,
Well, they're gonna burn
They're
it.
gonna burn it, I don't know how they're
well,
gonna do it.
since they can save the trees, but the new site plan was gonna save it.
Have you seen it?
What, new site?
The original
Nobody
site plan
had
had 2
accused.
entrances on the front.
My Grandpa
Go ahead.
Noble, is that on there somewhere?
Well, we had that picture on the table, it was one of those
Yeah,
small
I
pictures.
got
Oh, yeah, I wish, and I don't know where that picture is. I have a picture, we have a picture of Grandma and Grandpa Noble somewhere that was down in the dining room. And
Are you rolling?
And it was, both of them were sitting there like the old pictures were, where they had no smile. Just, I wish I could have found that, because that would have been an interesting picture to have.
Tell you what, we probably ought to start with the early pictures. Yeah, that's an early picture.
This is the
there.
one with Grandpa and
Hold on a minute. Yeah, this is,
You gonna start with the motel?
this Mary Oden with Grandpa.
Yes,
Okay.
I know the picture.
Trying to look at
That's Marion Odom Senior.
Closer with it.
And tan in the background. I never did
Yeah.
that.
Where we gonna start, in the corner?
Well, we can start with the early stuff.
Okay.
Dick, you know the picture of
If you
Grandpa
point, or, here,
and
Dick,
Mr. Oden.
Dick, take that pencil, Dick,
That's
point to
right
the picture,
here.
please.
Yeah.
this is an old photo, 43, I guess that's not,
Yeah.
but this is an older, bigger photo.
Well, let's,
For the gas
hold
tank.
that for
Okay,
a minute.
all right, go.
These pictures have appeared in various newspapers over the years. Probably the earliest is the picture of my grandfather and his partner, Marion Oden Sr. In this room and in the back you can see this fireplace, which has been redone, but for many, many years it was stone facing all the way to the ceiling. This is my Uncle Glenn, who was the unofficial mayor of Brentwood, and the restaurant which they ran. This is a very good picture of the old original drugstore in 1943, which, if you'll notice, has gasoline pumps out front, which I remember very well, because I pumped many hundreds of gallons of gasoline through those. This is another picture
Similar time. I
of
think.
about the same time the next year, when I believe they had gotten new pumps, of which they were rather proud.
Tell them about the little fence and the rose arbors on either side.
Yes, there were fences on both sides of the drugstore, and on this side was a little beer garden with several round metal tables with the kind that have the umbrella through the middle and metal seats around, in which in the summertime people would come out and take their sandwiches and beer and sit out there and solve all the ills of Brentwood in a spiritual way. This is a picture, I believe, of Glenn and Mud Huff, who ran another institution, Huff's grocery store, for many, many years, without which Brentwood really no longer has a place to congregate and quite call its own. This is another old picture of the drugstore with Alec and Eugenia's mother, Ivy Noble, and one of the assistants in front of the drugstore with the clock above it, of which Glenn and my grandfather were very proud. And this, of course, is the motel edition after grandfather deeded that tract of land to Glenn, and he built the motel and then continued to expand on it, trying to keep it throughout in the what they had hoped, and what they influenced a great deal was the early American architectural tradition, which has carried on very well in Brentwood, which I think covers most of the photography except those llamas with whom I'm not acquainted.
I think they stayed at Maryland Farm too, didn't they, Gina? Or maybe they.
I don't remember the llamas.
I don't either, but I've heard about them. Yeah, I think they were here when I was young. Well, is there anything on that one down there? That's just
a duplication.
On behalf of the Brentwood Historical Commission, I want to thank you all, the Noble family, for being here. This has been a real fun thing.